April 15, 1945. Imagine stepping into a place where the air is thick with the smell of decay and the faint groans of the suffering fill every corner. That's what British soldiers from the 11th Armored Division encountered when they entered Bergen-Belsen on April 15, 1945. They found over 13,000 unburied bodies scattered across the ground and nearly 60,000 survivors struggling against starvation and diseases like typhus and tuberculosis. And this wasn't just a concentration camp. It was a stark symbol of the unimaginable cruelty of the Nazi regime. Behind these grim numbers lies the story of individuals like Elisabeth Volkenrath, an SS guard who became one of the most feared women in the camps. How did an ordinary hairdresser transform into a notorious figure of terror? Let's uncover her journey. Welcome to History Unraveled, where we dive into the past's most gripping tales. Like, share, comment, and hit that subscribe button to keep exploring history's darkest corners with us. Elisabeth Volkenrath came into the world on September 5, 1919, in Schönau an der Katzbach, a small German town, now part of Poland. Born into a working-class family, her father a forester, her mother a homemaker, she had little chance for a proper education and was an average student at best. Before the war, she worked as a hairdresser, a simple job that gave no hint of the dark path ahead. But in 1941, when the Nazis called for women to join the SS, Volkenrath volunteered, setting her life on a course that would change everything. Her career began at Ravensbrück, a camp primarily for women. There, she underwent a 6-week training program designed to turn her into a relentless enforcer. Rigorous physical drills built her endurance for overseeing prisoners in harsh conditions, while she learned to use leather whips, rubber sticks, and other punishments to maintain control. Beyond that, she was steeped in Nazi propaganda, taught that Aryans were superior and that eliminating enemies was essential. This training didn't just toughen her physically, it erased her empathy, reshaping an ordinary young woman into someone capable of unflinching brutality. After a year in March 1942, she was sent to Auschwitz, the most infamous of the Nazi death camps. At Auschwitz, Volkenrath's true nature emerged. She started in the tailoring workshop, supervising elderly women mending uniforms. Even with these frail prisoners, she showed no restraint, using her fists to enforce discipline. Later, she moved to the parcel depot, overseeing 25 inmates sorting packages from the Red Cross or relatives. Far from softening her, this role amplified her terror. She became a living nightmare for everyone under her watch, earning the title of the camp's most hated woman. Her cruelty extended beyond physical punishment. She took part in selections, deciding which prisoners would live and which would die in the gas chambers, a task she seemed to enjoy. In one instance, only 300 out of 1,400 prisoners survived her choices. She stood there, pointing with cold precision, determining fates like it was a game. Witnesses recalled her beating a woman unconscious with a rubber stick, with many others never recovering from her attacks. Her actions knew no limits. When a prisoner was suspected of stealing a ring and locket, Volkenrath and her colleagues stripped her bare, beat her with rubber sticks, and locked her in a dark cell with barely any food or water for 3 days. The woman clung to life thanks to her sister sneaking her scraps, but she later died of typhus from forced labor in a weakened state. On another occasion, Volkenrath pushed an elderly woman downstairs simply for asking about work, ending her life instantly. Life under Volkenrath's oversight was a living hell. Prisoners faced not only hunger and illness, but also her unrelenting brutality. They were driven to exhaustion with labor, beaten without cause, and lived in constant fear that any move could be their last. Her ruthlessness wasn't just in her actions. It was in her indifference, as if causing pain was second nature. Take a moment to sip some water, and then we'll dive back in. In January 1945, as the war neared its end, Volkenrath arrived at Bergen-Belsen on February 5th. Her reign of terror continued unabated. When a woman tried to escape and was caught, Volkenrath and Camp Commandant Josef Kramer battered her with sticks across her head, face, and body. Another time, she caught a sick girl taking vegetables and forced her to kneel, holding them overhead for 4 hours. When the girl's strength gave out, Volkenrath beat her into unconsciousness, leaving her there until nightfall with no one daring to help. Even as British troops arrived to liberate Bergen-Belsen on April 15, 1945, Volkenrath didn't relent. The day after liberation, she was seen using her bare hands to beat a prisoner to death. Her ferocity shocked even the battle-hardened soldiers, who took her into custody along with accomplices like Johanna Bormann, known for unleashing dogs on inmates, and Josef Kramer, the camp's final commandant. After her capture, Volkenrath faced trial at the Belsen proceedings, which began on September 17, 1945. This was one of the first war crimes trials after World War II, drawing global attention. She denied all accusations, claiming she only slapped a few prisoners and never used a stick. But dozens of survivors and undeniable evidence exposed her lies. Gertrude Diamant, a survivor, testified that she saw Volkenrath send prisoners to Block 25, a holding area for those bound for the gas chambers. Another described her forcing inmates to hold their arms up for hours during roll calls, just to torment them. The trial wasn't just a judgment, it was a window into the camp's horrors. Witnesses provided chilling accounts of Volkenrath's merciless beatings and her role in mass killings. The British military court found her guilty of war crimes and sentenced her to hang. On December 13, 1945, at age 26, she was executed at Hamelin Prison by the renowned executioner Albert Pierrepoint. Few shed tears. Her end was seen as a fitting close to her reign of terror. Volkenrath's story isn't just about one woman's cruelty. It's a testament to how ordinary people can become instruments of evil under a dictatorship. From a struggling hairdresser to a key figure in a killing machine, her transformation raises haunting questions. Was it the harsh SS training, pressure from above, or a hidden darkness within her? Historians still debate, but one thing is clear. She chose that path. The Belsen trial was more than her punishment. It marked a turning point in history. As one of the first war crimes trials post-World War II, it laid the groundwork for later proceedings like Nuremberg, sending a message that justice could prevail. Today, her story lives on in books, documentaries, and Holocaust museums, urging us to confront humanity's capacity for brutality and the importance of never forgetting. Post-trial, Volkenrath's name sparked intense reactions. British papers like The Times and The Guardian labeled her the she-devil of Bergen-Belsen, fueled by survivor tales of her ruthlessness. A November 18, 1945, article in The Times noted, "Volkenrath wasn't just a guard, she embodied the Nazi system's malice." Yet opinions weren't unanimous. Some viewed her as a small cog in a massive apparatus, swept up without a choice. Others insisted she was fully accountable, pointing to her zeal for cruelty. This divide persists, mirroring the challenge of assessing individual responsibility within a tyrannical system. Scholars have delved deeply into Volkenrath's role, offering diverse perspectives. Dr. Daniel Goldhagen, a Holocaust scholar. In his 1996 book, Hitler's Willing Executioners, he argues Volkenrath shows how regular Germans became killers under the Nazis. He emphasizes that her brutality stemmed not just from orders, but from her willingness to embrace it. She wasn't born a monster, he writes, but was shaped by a society that celebrated cruelty against perceived enemies. Professor Wendy Lower, expert on women in Nazi Germany. In Hitler's Furies, 2013, she portrays Volkenrath as a typical SS guard, molded into brutality by training. She didn't just follow orders, Lower notes. She took an active part and even enjoyed tormenting prisoners, revealing the system's power to corrupt. Dr. Nikolaus Waxman, specialist in concentration camps. In KL, A History of the Nazi Concentration Camps, 2015, he stresses that Volkenrath's actions were part of a system built to destroy humanity. Her brutality earned her promotions, he explains, showing how the camps not only tolerated but encouraged such behavior. These analyses shed light on Volkenrath's story while revealing how the Nazi regime turned everyday people into tools of destruction. Volkenrath's story didn't end with her execution. It reverberated through the decades. In 1961, during Adolf Eichmann's trial in Jerusalem, prosecutors referenced the Belsen trial to argue for broader accountability, citing Volkenrath as proof that guilt extended beyond top leaders. Her name surfaced again in the 1980s, when Holocaust education gained momentum in U.S. schools, with educators using her as a case study in moral collapse. Today, her legacy is tangible at sites like the Bergen-Belsen Memorial, where plaques list her among the camp's key figures. Visitors leave flowers not for her, but for her victims, a silent tribute to resilience over cruelty. Documentaries like PBS's The Liberation of Bergen-Belsen, 2005, feature her story, blending survivor footage with archival clips to keep her actions in focus. Volkenrath's tale grips us because it's a microcosm of the Holocaust's complexity, ordinary people, extraordinary evil, and the long road to justice. It's a story of power unchecked, of systems that amplify the worst in us, and of the courage it takes to confront that past. For history lovers, it's a chance to wrestle with uncomfortable truths. How do we judge those swept into history's darkest currents? How do we ensure it never happens again? April 15, 1945, marked more than Bergen-Belsen's liberation. It exposed the full extent of Nazi atrocities. Elisabeth Volkenrath's path from an ordinary woman to a feared enforcer is a key piece of that history. With this deeper dive, we've explored not just her brutal journey but the historical context, public reactions, and vital lessons her story holds. If it left you thinking, share it to keep the past present. Hit that subscribe button for more gripping tales from history.